It was said a long time back that a monster came here. It came from the northern plains of North America, Turtle Island. The monster, as it were, is said to be a giant about 8 or 10 feet or so. Some call it a skinwalker, some call it a wendigo. It doesn't really matter what it's called because it lived long before names were given to such things. This creature of types is said to live in the Great Plains. It happens rarely because you won't find it in any papers or any local news. The creature comes and takes away the unknowing victim. In this story's case, it was several teenage boys. The teenage boy has many facets to it: to be liked, to be taken serious, and to be understood. The fragile mind of a pubescent boy is weird and frustrating. The imagination of these kids are something different and often can be their worst nightmares. And to live in a town where folklore and creatures of the night are fueled to a teenager's mind. Some nightmares become reality, and the reality of a scared kid is something that an adult doesn't understand. The teenagers in this story want their story told and to be understood for what it is, a real danger that preys on anything that comes in its path. Most didn't and don't believe in these creatures, but they are real. The date is May 12th, 1994. The time is 10:47 p.m. in the Oklahoma town called Rotten. A group of teenagers living the dream of being a kid, stolen beer, and a pack of smokes that someone probably in the group found, and a little bit of Maui Wowie that came along the way. They thought they were going to have the time of their life, the exuberance of youth, and the thrill to live on the edge of life. Little did they know it would be their last thrill of buzz-filled exuberance. So these kids were drinking and smoking and living it up, and it's inevitable, but the urge to urinate had to happen. A few went off on their own, and they never came back. The other boys that were back at the fire said that they heard screeches right before they heard their friends scream. The ruckus was so loud that the ones back at the hangout decided to bolt anywhere they could, anywhere but here. This is a story that any normal publication wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, but the wonderful boss that I have keeps a scan of all the radio bands, not just the news bands, but the emergency bands and other bands that I can't talk about. So anyway, he hears this and sends me a message on my beeper. It was 999. This tells me something paranormal is up, and something that I can get a move on. So I find a phone, and I give him a call. He tells me the blow, and I hang up with excitement. Finally, something that I can get my hands into. It's May the 14th, 1994, and at the moment, boss has me up here in Buffalo, New York, and I'm on a story. Plus, I get to cover the Quantic show. Epic. The scenery is amazing, and is the first city to have had a business building erected so that the lovely people of Buffalo would have a place to go into the office. There are lots of great historical places here as well as paranormal. There's a train station not too far from here where I'm currently residing. I was planning on heading there tomorrow, but I guess I'll have to catch it on the next round. I hang out here for a few days, and I'm really digging the pizza and the wings. So I'm held up here, and this thing is gassed up, and in several hours or so, I'll be heading out west. I figure it's a 2-day trip, and I'm biting at the bit to get down to Oklahoma to start this the story, for the magazine I work for. I'm sitting here watching TV in my portable casino 5500 to catch up on some TV while I wait. And oh, the commercials in between the shows, and even the shows themselves. Wow. This year's Champ Bowl halftime show was a country show. Things are changing in America. But these are the breaks of being a reporter for an independent magazine. It's after 9 and I'm watching TV, and my mind starts to wander as it does. And I remember about a month ago I was in Florida looking at an eclipse that happened with a weird excitement for the locals. It was cool and all, but it's a partial eclipse, nothing exciting. But I was down here for a story, and I remember the heat and how up here in Buffalo, in the summer, it isn't bad at all. Makes me kind of dread going down to Oklahoma. But these are the breaks. I turn off my TV and turn over in my sleeping bag in my tent. The night is cool and the constant breeze makes it feel wonderful. I turn on my cassette player and start to listen to a story about a man and a big, big fish. He was an old man that fished alone in a skiff on the Gulf Stream, and he had gone 84 days now without catching a fish. In the first 40 days, a boy had been with him. But after 40 days without a fish, the boy's parents told him that the old man was definitely and finally Salah. I wake up to hear birds chirping and the morning sun breaking over the horizon. It's about 7 a.m. I slowly get moving because I'm burning daylight at this point. I get myself ready to part the scene, and I make myself a quick cup of instant coffee, something to get me going till I hit the next Jimmy pose. The morning has a slight chill to it as I prepare myself a cup of instant coffee that could pass as pencil shavings. So I gather up my gear and pack it into the trunk of that good old girl that kept watch over me all night. I take a look at myself in the mirror so I won't look like an entire wreck when I get to civilization, and I do look like a massive train wreck. So I remedy that with a canteen of water and a fine-tooth comb. The cold water is almost a bit much for me. But it is what it is, and it's time to stop piddling around and get a move on. I put the key in the ignition, and I start on my way. I drive a 93 Stang, and she's teal green with 6 cylinders. Gets me there a little faster. In my car, I have a CB radio, a multi-band radio, and I have a compass on the dash, right next to my hula girl whose hips are always swinging. Keep plenty of toilet paper and a shovel, because you never know when that feeling strikes. I have plenty of tapes to listen to and more than enough snacks. We've driven the sunrises and the sunsets that would melt the brain of most people who don't actually get out and get to enjoy the beauty that's been out here. All right, you go dudes. We have some kicking tunes coming right ahead, so sit right back and enjoy some loaf. Gaily bedight, a gallant night, in sunshine and in shadow, had journey long, singing a song in search of El Dorado. Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride, boldly ride. I hit the open road, windows are down, and the music is blaring. I have a huge cup of Jimmy Poe's coffee right next to me, giving me the energy that I need. A bold flavor of the steamy brew that sends positive vibes to my body and soul. Now this is some good coffee. As I drive, my thoughts drift anywhere and everywhere. I get lost in the music and the scenery of the wondrous mountains around me. I get onto the 277, and I'll pass through Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, and then Oklahoma. Man, what a long drive. As I drive down the hills and valleys of this New York countryside, my mind wanders, and I'm taken back to different reporting gigs that I've done. And I have done some. Things from Little People to The Lady of the Bridge and, other stories that most people don't want to cover. But I like to cover these things because I have a love and hankering for them. Well, most of it anyways. I'm sure glad I don't have to deal with the family from Utah. And they were hell-bent on killing me because they thought I killed one of their elders of the group. But that's another story. So I finally arrived in Oklahoma after 2 days of driving. And boy, I sure felt beat. And I tell you, after all the bull, I went to my room and I got some sleep. After what seemed an enormous amount of days sleeping with dreams filled with stories of their own, I think I got about 12 hours or so, and I had no clue where I was. It felt like I was late for the bus and it was 2 a.m. But I'm 35 and it was 7 a.m. Ah, yeah, those dreams. As I try to shake the groggy feeling, I turn on the radio, and out of nowhere, I am so hungry that I think my throat's been cut. So I get dressed and head down for some free breakfast, orange juice, and a bowl of cereal or 3. I finally got some tunes for the road, and I'm awake enough and heading out to where I need to be. I pulled out my book of maps, and I got my bearings. I wear a survival bracelet, and it has a 500-pound paracord, along with a compass clasp. The gear that I acquire throughout the years have become beneficial. These things have saved my hide a time or two. I check my compass and get a sense of where I need to go. My grandfathers taught me how to survive the wild and the things that I would always need. The tallest tree or landmark, be in a certain direction for when traveling afoot, you have to read the trees and know where you're going and know when it's going to rain. All these things that a native kid should know. So I always come prepared. Well, as much as possible. I also learned to read the stars many years ago from one of my grandfathers. We would sit by a small fire in the front yard and he would tell me stories of long ago. Several years back, my grandfather gave me some cassettes that he had from an old vinyl record. The vinyls were recorded from a friend of his, so I don't know if they still exist or if there are any other copies. What's on the tapes? Several things, actually. It started out with some wood flute and some drums, and I think some strange yelling sounds overlaid on top of the songs. Later, there are native words being spoken. I'm not sure what the dialect is, but it's a version of Crow. As I did some research in the book my grandfather gave me, along with the cassette, was about a myth of a creature on the recording. Come to find out, the scuttlebutt that's been going around is that of the Mupits, a being that is tall and unlike any other creature that the tribe has seen. Many other tribes have their own stories and myths about these creatures. The Comanche and the Crow have their stories of these creatures as well. As far as I can tell, my grandfather put me on the right path, and he didn't even know it. As the tape stops, I rummage through the rest of the tapes, and I bring forth the second tape in the collection. As I take the tape out and put the tape in, the tape starts off with some flute playing and some drums again like before. They were subtle, but they were there. I could hear talking while the flute was playing. I couldn't figure out what words were being said. I could make out some words, but there are other words in the mix that I haven't heard before. As I listen to the flute and drums play, I hear this singing of several people. Some men, some women. The song was catchy, well, at least the melody was. As I drove along the plains, I listened intently to the tape. As the words were a wonder to me, I listened to the melody that sang to me. And it put me into some sort of a trance as I listened. I felt like I was being taken back to the days of the indigenous creatures on the Great Plains. I need to find out some more information about these local teenagers, so I head out to the local reservation where I know there has to be some talk of the story in the local newspaper. Heck, I might even have to contact the paper that ran the story and find out all I can from those guys. But we'll see. But so far, this is probably the best place to look. But I guess I have to see. I arrive at the res gas station and store that had a diner in the back. I park the Mustang and go inside and grab something to eat. I walk over into the diner and take a seat. I overhear two guys talking in Kiowa. I knew a bit of their language and I listened. They also kept eyeballing me, but I made out like I was a vacationer. So I sat there looking over my menu, pretending to read, but all the while listening. Finally, the waitress comes over and she takes my order. She is a tall, dark-haired beauty with light skin. And I am not good at all with aging people, so I'm not even sure how old she was. Anywhere from 18 to 40. No clue. Hey, so what you having? She asks as she starts to put pen to the paper. As if it were her millionth order, and she was just in her work state of mind. Kind of off guard, I say I'll have a soda, and I'm not sure what else. Is there anything that you would suggest? I say. She looks at me for a moment and speaks up. Most anything on the menu is good. Just depends on what you want. I glance over the menu real quick, and I see a bison burger. Heck, that'll work. A burger is kind of calling my name after this long drive anyways. I'll have a bison burger with cheese and no onions, and a side of house fries. Please, I say, as in having confidence in my order. All right, she says while writing into her tablet. It'll be right up. Oh, one other thing, I say as I lift my menu, as if I forgot something. As I'm pointing at something on the menu, I talk in a hushed tone. So I hear about these missing teens. What happened yesterday? What's that about? I say softly. She looks at me odd with her big brown eyes and looks back at the menu, and then she speaks in a hushed tone. Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah, well, what happened exactly? I asked. She took her hand and walked her index and middle fingers across her arm. Oh, I said with annoying. Yeah, she said as she looked at the menu. I took a moment as if I were thinking of what else to get. I asked her if the guys behind us knew much about her, or were they just talking. I'm not sure, she says. I haven't paid them much attention because they're just regulars. Oh, I got you, I said. She wrote something down on the piece of paper. She asked what else I would like from the menu. And I said, and some of that mud pie you have here. All right, it'll be up in a little while. She slid me the paper as she was giving me a straw and napkins. I took the napkins and placed it next to where my plate would eventually be. I slid the paper out when I was sure I wasn't being watched. Meet me near the bathrooms after you eat, the paper says. So she went on her way and I was waiting for my meal. I broke out my portable TV and started browsing through the channels. As I scrolled through the channels, I was listening to the two men talk the whole time, trying to get as much information as I could. So I finished my meal and headed to the restroom after I paid. When I walk out the restroom, she is standing right there waiting for me. She told me to meet her here tomorrow, right after lunchtime, just to be sure that no one else would be around. I asked her the locale where the missing boys were. She must have known I was going to ask this, so she handed me a map with a circle around the location that I was looking for. I head to the old girl and open the door and climb into the old bucket seats that I had installed. I turn the knob to the AC on because it's starting to get warm. Not the buffalo weather I just left. Ride, boldly ride. I pull onto the dirt road that led back to the field. I keep an extra set of keys hidden under the car just in case I need to get out quick. I have my tape and video recorder, and I also have my making camera that I use. I search the area and I can see the blood trails. I followed the stalks of dried burgundy blood through the cornfield that created a path. I'm guessing that when each boy was drugged through here, he was drugged in that area. I heard birds and didn't feel like there was anything around that could be bad. But then again, it's still light out and won't be dark for a few hours or so. I continue to walk the scene and film all I can. Not a lot I can do at this point, so I'll have to come back tonight. I get back to my room and grab a nap. I figured I'd go out for supper after I'd had some much-needed sleep. I finally wake up and the room is dark. I had forgotten that I had the drapes closed because I wasn't planning on sleeping very long, but that's the reality of being on the road. I get showered and dressed. I grab some drive-thru and a couple of coffees. I have a long night ahead of me. As I drive along the dark, flat roads and there's hardly any moon in the sky at all, up ahead I see a light. It's the diner. I pull up to the gas station/diner. I walk inside and head over to the diner in the back. Lucy is there. I catch her eye and she gives me an acknowledging smile and nod. I take a seat near the table. After a couple of moments, she walks over and starts with some small talk. Now, I'm James, by the way, as I look kind of sheepish because I realize that I haven't given her my name. I'm Lucy, she says with a grin, slightly biting her lip. I order a coffee. She asked me how yesterday went. Maybe because she knows about this kind of stuff, or she just doesn't care. But she gave me a folded up piece of paper and walked away. I opened the note and it said that she would get off of work and meet me at the stalls with the address on it. So I took the info she gave me and I got ready to head on my way. I could tell it was a sensitive matter, but it's something I'm totally down to check out. So I wait for Lucy and I wander around the shop to see if there was any kind of knickknacks that I could pick up from this trip. A reminder. After I had paid, I was about to turn around and felt a tap on my right shoulder. And as I turned in surprise, Lucy was standing there. Come on, slowpoke, she says as she takes my arm and heads to the exit. Okay, Lucy says, follow me. She lets my arm go and she walks over to her car. I memorized the make and model as much as I could so I could follow her. I walk over to that teal Stang that carries me to any wonderful destination that I choose. As I started the car, the radio was so loud with what I was playing, I didn't even realize that it was turned all the way up. I revved my engine so Lucy could know I was ready to roll. I listened to the tape for most of the ride to the rendezvous. I kept going over and over the things about the missing teens. While I'm in the midst of listening to interviews and going through papers, Lucy pulls up and parks her car. She opens the passenger door to the Stang, and she gets in. "Hey," I say. "Hey," she sighs as she gets situated in the seat. "So what are you listening to?" she asks. "Well, it's a tape my grandfather gave me, and I've been trying to understand the things that are going on with the tape." "What kind of things are you talking about?" she asks, wondering. "Well, I hear music and also chattering as well as some screaming sounds in the background. But the screams don't sound human at all, but they also don't sound like any animals, so I'm not sure exactly what it is." She gives me that "what?" kind of look. "Here, listen." I fast forward the tape to where the voices are. She listens and Lucy is sitting there in silence. I rewind it and play it again. "Have you tried listening to it on a surround sound system?" she asked. "Well, what do you mean?" I look confused. "I mean, you can separate the music and vocals and listen separately. You should try it out," she says, smiling because she knows something that I should know. She gives me a glance and a slight smile. "We should head back to my place and try it out. I bet we could hear it good on my system that I have. It's a Yamaha." I say, "Sure, that would be brilliant." "Well, follow me," she says as she gets out of the car and gets into hers and throws it into reverse and takes the lead. Well, dang, I think to myself. I try to keep up with her driving, but geez Louise, I am sure trying. And I don't know these back roads at all and can barely keep up. What seems like half an hour of turns and back roads filled with clouds of dust that she is kicking up, we finally arrive. "You kept up," she said with a smirk and a wink. "Yeah, I do what I can." I think to myself, flirt. "Yeah, story first, kid." "Come on in the house, and don't forget the tape," she yells back as she's walking to the front porch. "Ah, yes, the tape. Boy," I say as I open the car door and eject the tape. We head inside and she puts the tape in and turns up the volume. I listen to the sounds again. There is such a difference. I can hear the voices and they're so much better and clearer in the center speaker. She cranks the volume in the center speaker some more. "How's that?" she asked. "Haha, nice. That's much better." I really can't believe that I hadn't thought of this before. "Yeah," she says and gives me another smile. That shows she's the top wolf and smarter than me. I later arrived at a friend of my cousin's in the afternoon. It was a quick and long trip, and my mind was just going and going from the night before. I met up with a guy named Marcus that my cousin Hulk told me about. We said our hellos and sat down at the booth at a local dive. We talk about the things that have been going on in a little town near Fort Sill. We talk about the possibility of walkers and Mupits, and other lore in the local area. It seems to me that it may be Mupits rather than other types. It just fits better. I knew the trail of this story was going to take me in a lot of directions. And boy, is it ever. If it is a Mupit, we have to figure out how to basically rid the world of this creature. I had heard tell that dipping arrows in ashes made by certain plants can help kill these things. Marcus and I part ways as he tells me to be careful, because stories versus real life makes a man freeze right in his shoes. "I'll be careful," I said. I drive back and pick up Hulk. I parked the car and we walked about a mile to ground zero. It was getting dark quick and I wanted to record some video and audio. I had night vision camcorders and a couple of tape recorders. I took precautions to hide my equipment so that we wouldn't be compromised by anything out of the normal blue. I wasn't ready for what happened next. Everything went silent. No nighttime bugs lulling away the night. As I sat a ways from our so-called camp, I had set up a string perimeter with bells attached. I heard one side of the string being walked into, and it made a slight noise. I brought up my bow. I can hardly see anything out even though I have several glow sticks set out. I hear the opposite side of the perimeter being crossed. I still see nothing. I stay low and I stay quiet. I see lights heading from two different directions. Think, who are these guys? I stay low and I keep an eye on the guys that are apparently keeping an eye on this area. There are trucks with the bright lights on the top mount pull up to where I have my so-called setup. 2 of them have boom lights and they're checking out the perimeter. As long as I stay low, I'll be okay. I have a ghillie suit on and it would be a miracle if they spot me. They look around and come pretty darn close for comfort. I slow my breathing. I stay low until they have gone, and then some. We keep an eye and ear out on the perimeter for both what is hunting the area. Morning comes and we make it out and grab our gear and bust a move to my car. I doubt those yahoos saw where I parked. I know how to stay hidden. My cousin knows quite a bit of native beliefs. If I can use every bit of knowledge I can get a hold of, I can take this creature down. I'm not even sure that we can even take out this creature, actually. But we head down to the farm, and I see Corner Dog just hanging out there. He runs along the side of the car and yelling his head off like I was interrupting his turf. Well, I guess it is, in his eyes. But as Red's dogs go, he was top of the list. By now, everyone on the farm knows that we're here. We pull up, and Hulk goes and sits on the rocker at the front porch, and what looks like a mountainous dew already in his hand. I walk up and sit next to him. "Here's to a fun night," he says as he lifts his can. I opened the cooler and grabbed an icy brew that thou had for us. We both chuckle at this and stare off in the distance. "So, what about these kids?" Hulk said finally. "Well, best I can figure it, they had a run-in with the Mupits. A bunch of people are yelling Skinwalker, but I know differently. The only thing that I do know is that it sounds an awful lot like a coyote. But that's not exactly proof that a Skinwalker's around," he says. We talk a while and have a few. I stay the night and we get a move on at some point in the morning. It feels good to visit family while on assignment. So the next day, Hulk and I plan to go and get things set up and try not to get spotted. We keep an eye out for the cameras and other things that these idiots with guns may have hidden. Booby traps, lasers, any kind of trip devices that they can come up with. So we head out and park about 1.5 miles away. We park the car in such a hard-to-find place, and we sneak out. As we walk along the tire tracks, we look on each side of the road for any kind of device that will alarm these guys if we're on the premises. We get a couple of 100 feet or so, and my cousin notices a low-sensored light. The ones that they have at a store to let you know someone's inside. So we walk over to it and walk around it. I break out my binoculars and I look around. About 100 feet or so, there's another set of lasers and what looks like to be a camera also. As I look, there are 2 more cameras, and each of them are pointed opposite directions of each other. We slowly make our way around the lasers and camera quietly. I look through binoculars again and don't see anything for 100 feet or so. We make our way to that point and check again. We finally get to the spot where we want to be. Each of us look around with our binoculars. Nothing. We head back to the side of the field. We use the cover of the corn to make our way further in. We set up our cameras at the clearing where the teenagers were, and we made sure that we were hidden. Camouflage is key. I give my cousin his walk-in and earplug. Very old school earplug, and we converse that way. He slowly makes his way to a spot about 50 yards or so from where I am. The next sound Hulk hears is me falling. "What was that?" Hulk said over the walkie. "Prairie dog hole," I said as I was getting back on my feet. I could hear Hulk laughing out loud. And he says, "Yeah, they're out here. Don't let them hang out with you. We don't have time for pets." When I was done, I snuck back to my area and I got in position and waited. The lights in the truck broke through the clearing. These guys keep coming in their trucks. What are they trying to find or protect? This is ridiculous. So I'm over here trying to get a story and I have a special tribe trying to get my butt. I heard a sound in the distance and I'm guessing that they heard it too, because many shots rang out. And they paused for a moment. And as I glanced up, the guys were looking towards the sound they heard. They opened fire again. I had these guys dead to sights. Not right, because that implies they had any. And the thing about us indigenous creatures, we never miss. I can hit anything that anyone aims at before their finger's even straight. Comanche never has to strike twice, but we do, just for fun. So I go to take my shot, and yet another scream from the creature in the opposite direction. As I hear the yell or howl or whatever it is, I don't see anything. But I see these men turning around and firing in that direction, and it was easy to see that the creature was playing with these guys. I wasn't about to spoil his fun or feast, so I'm gonna set my butt right here. Hey, do you see this? Isn't this exciting? I say over the walkie. Yeah, if you say so, Poltativo. He laughs. Geez, thanks. Why spoiled those kids' fun, I retort. Good point, he says. Radio silence, man, he tells me in a hushed voice. Point taken, I say to myself. The blowhards are having a heck of a time pinpointing this creature, and yet it keeps playing with them. I know that it's gonna strike soon. I sure hope the camera is still running. What a cash cow that would be, but I'm not counting my chickens before they hatch. So these guys are spending their ammo too fast, just blindly firing into the woods. Thank God I'm keeping my head down. I hear a silence. I think they ran out of ammo. That or they see something. I peek through the grass and can hardly see anything. The roar comes from all around us. These guys at their trucks huddle together. You can tell they're scared. A deafening silence is all around. I can hardly see what's gonna happen next. The tension's building. I see a flashlight go wild and see a light drug through the dark field with the wail from the guy that was taken. Shots fired in the same direction. Another scream from the other side, and these men turned around and started firing again. From the other side, the creature takes another screaming guy, firing his weapon. A few drop to the ground, dead. More yelling from the men and an awkward silence. No roars, no screams, just silence. Some of the men rip flares into existence as they throw them onto the ground. Shattering of windows lets me know that the men are desperate. As the rest of the lights on the trucks are taken out and the guys are mostly in darkness, they only have their meg lights. The clashes keep going from right to left and in circles. They keep yelling at one another, trying to figure out what is happening to them. The creature carries off another victim. I hear a man yell out in his primal scream. I see him lighting something, maybe a flare? No, that's a stick of dynamite. The sound of the dyno was so loud, even when I covered my ears, I heard ringing for a few moments. More screams came from the group. It seems that the dynamite didn't work at all. If anything, it made the creatures much worse. Yeah, that's right, creatures. More than one. Because no one being is that fast. So I keep seeing flashlights being drug off into the field of darkness. At the moment, my butthole is so tight you couldn't get a pin up my ass with a jackhammer. I get my bow and arrow set. I know it may not do a whole lot, but from what I learned about defeating such a creature, I dipped my arrows in some ash mud. It is said that one can kill one of these creatures with ashed arrows. Ashes made of sage, cedar, and a few other items I can't say. Poke also has the same setup. And then there were two. I keep low as these guys are getting taken off in all directions and torn apart. Well, at least that's what it sounds like. I hear the next big boom. Another stick of dynamite has been let loose by one of the two. One. The dynamite fell at the feet of the creature that was holding the helpless man by his head. Held about a foot or two above the ground. The last man started freaking out and started firing what little ammo he had at the creature. I hear the man's screams cut short as the creature decapitates this jackass. The creature drops the body to the ground. The last man standing is firing his weapon at the creature in front of him and doesn't see the creature behind him. I can hardly see shit. But what I can see, the guy is being picked up from the ground, still firing his gun. As the creature tears the man in half, he yells in agony to what's actually happening to him. I can see the tall figure from the smoke of weapons, and the crescent moon that hardly illuminates anything at his face. With the flares, I can see just enough of these creatures in their wild glory. They peer around the perimeter. As they are looking, they are also communicating with each other. We can see them roam around the site. I hear small noise through my earpiece. 1, 2. We stay low and we aim, and hope to the Creator that we can hit these things and not die. So we let loose several arrows in the direction of the beast. They were screeching so loud it hurts. I load my left hand with arrows against them. I start to crouch and head to my left. I know my cousin is doing the same because we planned ahead. Well, as much as we can. No one knows how this is going to end. As we circle the two creatures, we fire our weapons. More screeching, more yelling. I can hardly keep up with my cousin, who's letting arrows fly like there isn't any tomorrow. Well, I guess that is kind of the reality. So we let out a strew of arrows and keep out of sight as much as possible. To our amazement, we only hear one of these creatures running and try to get away from us. But we've got him covered. My cousin starts talking in our native language. It sounds like a prayer. I follow his lead. As we circle the creature and firing our arrows into him, I see my cousin drop his bow. He takes the machete from his side. No doubt it was layered with ash mud and prayers. I yell as loud as I can and waving my bow into the air to get his attention. My cousin runs behind the creature with the machete held high. Hulk brings down the machete and cuts through the neck and torso of the massive being. As the ash-covered blade cuts through the being, it lets out a shriek and a yell and a roar. The creature starts turning in circles with its arms flailing about, trying to get my cousin off of his back. I grab my machete. I stab the creature several times to the chest with angst and anger towards this incredible being that fights like no other that I've seen. As I step back and let an arrow fly, my cousin almost got pinched a little bit from my attack. As the arrow pierced through Hulk's top shoulder flesh and went straight through the creature's chest, it let out a yell, and I saw Hulk's eyes get real big in shock and pain. I dropped my bow and grab for my machete. "Dude!" I yell as I jump into the air like I'm swinging away at a baseball. As I ripped my machete blade right through the head of the creature, I heard small squelch that sounded like a candle exploding. Warm liquid sprays my face, and I feel it running down my chin, dropping crimson drops onto the ground. I didn't get a bunch of face matter, but I can't say the same for Hulk. He didn't get away that easy. I break a glow stick, and the neon green light shows. And the neon green glow shows how much Hulk is covered in the creature's blood and mess. As was I. "You alright?" I asked. He does like a body shake as if he were a wolf or a dog, just to get the water off, you know. We both stood there in weird silence for a moment. He looks up and down at me, and then looks at the mess that he is. "Yeah, I'm here. Now let's grab our gear and head down to the farm," he says as he is trying to get the gunk off himself. As for me, I make my way to where I was pinned up and grab my gear. We collected all the other gear and moseyed down to the car, still making sure we weren't seen by any cameras, because that's the last thing we need. We get to the farm and clean up. It takes about an hour or so for both of us to clean ourselves of the night's adventure. We grab a few drinks and then we take a look at the material we recorded. We just sit there in awe. Night vision adds so much to what just happened. Hulk stops the camcorder and ejects the tape. "Time to copy and hide the tapes," my cousin said. I know that not many will believe what has taken place, but those of us who have lived it knows the truth. The truth is in this story of last night's tryst that will only be remembered as a bunch of unlucky individuals that was inevitably at the wrong place and at the wrong time. I'm sure the news outlets are going to twist this story into some kind of bear or wolf attack. The truth is out there for anyone who really looks into it. As we continue to get closer to the answers we seek, we often bring out more demons than we care to and know about. The story always continues, and as it does, I will follow. And we gotta close this out. This is the end of the show for the night. And we will be back next time, bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. So get your ass in gear, and let's enjoy this beautiful world out there. As that fella Poe once said, ride, boldly ride. Over the mountains of the moon, down the valley of the shadow, ride, boldly ride.